now going to talk about drop spins. So drop spins are a very, very common color guard move, going to be one of the most heavily used, especially early on when you're kind of working on technique and working to spin together and just understanding a lot of things that you need to understand in terms of putting color guard together as one thing. So I have actually my little notes here of all the important things of drop spins, and right here is my drop spin section. So I'm going to refer to this because I like to make sure that I cover all of these bases because there are a lot of things to think about when you're looking to do drop spins. We're just going to go over right drop spins first. So when you're looking to go into a drop spin, surprise, surprise, you're going to start at right shoulder. So these are drop spins on your right side. You can do drop spins on your left side, and we will. But to start with this, let's just go ahead and talk about a few things. So when you're looking to initiate your drop spin, you're going to let go with your left hand, and you're going to keep it close by. And you're going to let this, your right hand just kind of come down here. And you're bringing it down to what's called your spin spot. So your spin spot is kind of like the area between like your belly button and your waist here. And this is where I want all of my spinning to happen when I'm doing my drop spins. And so when you're going into a drop spin, that's where you're going to start. We'll talk about spin spot a little bit again after we kind of talk about how you do a drop spin so that you can maintain that spin spot as you're going through it. Okay. Also, you want to keep an eye on what your arms are doing. So let's just kind of go through one drop spin together, where your hands need to go, like how they need to switch, what your arms are doing, all that stuff, and then we'll kind of detail it a little bit more. So if I'm coming from right shoulder, I'm letting go with that left hand, I'm letting this come down, and it's kind of passing through flat as I come down to that spin spot, and I'm really allowing my wrist to be flexible here as it goes completely straight up and down, just right here in front of my nose. And I have this pulled away from my body a little bit. So I have this like rounding here to this arm. I have just a slight bend in this elbow, but not too much. You don't want a lot of bend in that elbow. You actually want this really pulled away from you here. And then my left hand, what it's going to do is you're going to think about flipping this to like a thumbs down position. And then I'm going to open up that hand, and I'm just going to bring it on the other side of the pole. So I'm not going to put it here. I'm going to actually bring it to the other side of the pole here. And I'm actually going to grab into the silk. So I've got that thumb down, grabbing into the silk. And grabbing into the silk is going to be important because when you grab into the silk, what you're doing is you're helping to keep this silk here from wrapping up. If you don't do that, one thing that can happen is it can start to roll up on you. And that would be a combination of not grabbing into the silk and also twisting your wrist. So twisting your wrist is something that you want to avoid. That's not going to be very good technique for you. So when I go in here, I'm going to have a nice solid wrist that I'm grabbing this with. And then I'm going to let go with my right hand, and I'm going to continue in this counterclockwise direction, and I'm going to bring it up. I'm still maintaining that lower spin spot though. And when I do this, I want to make sure that I'm just rotating my hand like this, and that I'm not doing anything like this with my wrist. I just want it to be kind of like I'm turning a doorknob, but only using this motion here. I don't want to like really get my wrist into that because that is also what is going to cause your flag to start to roll up over time. So if you find yourself having your flag rolling up, really keep an eye on your wrist because that usually tends to be the thing that is happening there. So I'm at my right shoulder, I'm going into that down drop spin, and now when I'm coming out of this, letting go with that right hand, I'm letting it come up, keeping that wrist nice and strong. And now my right hand is going to come thumbs up here, and it's just going to grab on the right side of the pole, underneath at the tab. Now I can go into another down drop spin. So when I do that, I'm letting go with my left hand, and I'm going to think about this hand, thumbs down again. I've got that palm open. I'm grabbing underneath into the silk, thumbs down. And when I come up, grabbing underneath, and then grabbing thumbs up. So you're always going to, when you go to grab, you're always going to be grabbing underneath whatever hand is still remaining on the flag. And then also when you do this, you can think about your thumbs, so that can really help people. In my down drop spin, my thumbs will always be down. And in my up drop spin, my thumbs will always be up. So you can think thumbs down, thumbs up. And if that helps you, that's great. So that's something to keep in mind. So as you're doing these drop spins, spin spot. We kind of talked about that momentarily. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Something that a lot of people will do when they're first starting out with drop spins is they'll start out really nice with that spin spot, but when they go into that up drop spin, they'll lift. So you see how that's happening? You're lifting your level up. You want to avoid that. You want to stay in that lower spin spot between your belly button and your waist that you're talking about here. So that's all in the wrist. I'm just rotating my wrist and allowing it to happen like that. And then here from the side, you can see where my hands are. So I've got that nice rounding here. I have my arms really pulled out, and I'm just letting it stay within that spin spot as I spin. So when you're doing this, another thing from the side you can check out is how straight up and down your pole is. That's going to be really, really important. You don't want to be spinning with an angle. So this is called your pitch. See how I'm really angled here? That's really going to start to get in the way, start to hit you, and you're just not going to look together with the rest of the team. So to fix this, what you can do is you can really press your thumbs. I'm really pressing my thumbs into the pole here, and that's really going to help correct that, so you're nice and straight up and down. So I'm really pressing in every time I switch between the up drop spin and the down drop spin. So that's something to keep in mind. Alright, so some other tricks to keep in mind. Just checking my to-do list here, because there are so many things. You also want to keep in mind what your body's doing, or what it's not doing, because there are certain things you don't want to do. So when you're going into your drop spins, you want to make sure that you have a nice strong body underneath, that your core is really nice and tight, your shoulders are back, your head is up, and you're really performing. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure, especially with your head, that you're not following the movement of your flag as you were doing your drop spins. So something that you'll sometimes see is somebody bobbing their head with their drop spins where they're thinking down, up, down, up. Don't do that. You just want to keep a nice, strong position, looking forward, projecting, performing, giving that nice smile to the audience, and just keeping your head in place and not following the flag in that way. You'll also notice that my shoulders will stay back as I'm doing that. So I'm not thinking about punching my back toward my flag at all when I'm doing that. So keep that nice position there. Yeah. Okay. Some other things to think about is to even out the spacing of your drop spins. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you don't, if you're doing this with counts, you don't want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You want it to be even all the way throughout. So you don't want to give less time to the down and more time to the up. You see how that's happening there? You want to give even counts to everything, unless it's written that way. But in terms of fundamentals, you usually want to space everything out really nicely. So you can think of your halfway checkpoints to help you with this. So I'm thinking about my flat on the and grabbing down on the 1. And then my flat on the 1 and grabbing up on the 2. And we'll do that again. So and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know? Or like, and 1. I don't know if I'm making sense, but hopefully that makes sense. You just really want to even out your spacing there. And for your drop spins, a lot of times it's going to be fluid like that, where it's and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and it's nice and continuous. And sometimes it'll be more of a squeeze in between, kind of like the hit version of a drop spin. So you're going to be thinking 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you're doing that, you really have to give a good squeeze to your flag in between each of those. So I'm thinking squeeze, 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 squeeze. And that helps lock in that straight up and down position really nicely. Okay, let me just double check my handy dandy list here. Make sure I don't miss anything. So we talked about spin spot, keeping it in that belly button waist area. And you want to think about your arms. You want to make sure that your elbows are rounded and that they're really pulled in front of you. Let me give you one more pointer on that actually while I'm on the topic. The reason we want to do this is you want to avoid what are called your chicken wings. So you don't want to be flying away here like this. See how I kind of have that going on? If you've got that bend there, it's going to be a problem. It's really going to cause you to get those chicken wings. Keeping it down in that spin spot, pulling those arms down and away from you will help avoid that. So really think about those key points when you're looking about where your arms should be. Alright, we also talked about grabbing into the silk when you're doing your drop spin to keep it from rolling up. You want to grab just below the tab when you're doing your up drop spin. You don't want to bob your head on your drop spins. Shoulders stay back. Thumbs are up on the up drop spins. Thumbs are down on the down drop spins. Don't rotate your wrists as you go, otherwise your flag will roll up. Do not pulse your drop spins. Nice fluid, even spacing throughout. And then watch your pitch, making sure that it's not angling away or toward you, and that you're nice, straight, up and down. And then you will have a successful drop spin. These, while they are a very core fundamental of color guard, do take practice. So be patient with yourself. Really pay attention to where your hands are supposed to be when you're doing these. And practice, and practice. And then speed it up over time. And before you know it, you'll be getting these drop spins like you can't believe.